I'm so excited about this episode of Safe Harbour because today's guest spent over 20 years in front of the camera, from Hollyoaks to Emmerdale to countless theatre stages across the country. But this conversation isn't all about acting. It's about what happens when a man walks away from the identity he's built his entire life around and has to figure out who the hell he is without it. James Sutton has been through addiction, marriage breakdown, and complete reinvention. And he's come out the other side with something real to say. He calls it protocol. I call it one of the most honest conversations we've ever had on Safe Harbour. I hope you enjoy the show. Here we are. Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's nice to see you.
Absolute pleasure to have finally got this booked in. We've been kicking this around for some time now.
Yeah, way too long. Where do we start? This is such a big... There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think the first question for me is 20 years in television, theatre and drama. What does that world teach you? What does that world taught you about the people that you came into contact with over those years? And what have you learned from that experience? It's a long time.
It's been such a rich experience. I'm so incredibly lucky. There are very few jobs and very few professions out there that allow you to come into contact with such a cross-section of society. You know, I've worked with crew members who are, sort of old Scousers that have been doing it since Brookside days, all the way through to, sort of classically trained RSC actors, film directors, DOPs. And I think it's one of the reasons that I think actors are quite deep thinkers and as a rule, because we have this sort of tapestry that we've sort of built from our experiences, not just on TV, but also on stage. And what that requires from you, you have to have some sort of knowledge of yourself, and you have to be, connected to your body and your voice and all of that side of it. And I didn't take particularly good care of myself for quite a long time. I'm sure we'll get onto that. So I do feel in some way that I'm kind of playing catch up a little bit now psychologically. But saying that, just a wealth of experience that I've learnt, and collaboration ultimately as well. Learning to work alongside people and be creative and trust people and listen to people. There's a lack of listening, I think, in society. People have forgotten how to listen and how to just take on information and be affected by it. And the best actors are the best listeners. That's just fact. Acting is reacting. So it's taught me a lot about listening, about collaboration, about trying to make other people look good. I know you said at the top of the show we wouldn't speak about acting too much, but it's very difficult not to, because it's been such a huge part of my life. The best acting, if I may just get on my soapbox for a second, the best acting is if we're in a scene together and I'm trying to make you look good and you're trying to make me look good, then the scene looks good. If you're a selfish performer and you're only bothered about your own work and your own performance and your own delivery and your own cadence and all of that stuff, and you've rehearsed your lines to the nth degree, then the scene doesn't really feel alive. So there's a real sense in creating good drama, in trying to lift the other person up and trying to make them look good. And I think that mindset is really important in the real world. Trying to lift other people up, trying to make other people feel nurtured and protected and supported. So the best work I've done on TV and on stage is when I felt very supported by my colleagues and by the other actors. And that's something that we can all learn from, I think.
It's quite a selfless, really, isn't it? It's like putting others before yourself. That's what I'm hearing you say. You're holding space for the other person, creating the environment for that person to do their best work, whilst keeping half an eye on you doing your best work at the same time. It's quite a dance. I guess I'm comparing it to coaching a little bit as you're saying it, because that's partly what I do. I'm holding a courageous space for someone to be really fully in their own process, while at the same time managing my own stuff so that I can be the best coach for that man at the other side of the screen or in the same room.
Yeah, there's a lovely symbiotic relationship there, which I think is reflected in good acting and good performances and good scenes, is that, as I say, if I make you look good and I try and bring something special out of you, if you're doing the same to me, then I can actually take my eyes off myself and just have some self-trust and some confidence in what I'm doing, because I'm following the rules. I'm stimulating you in the right way. I'm feeding you useful information in the hope that it will bring a performance out of you, which will then, in turn, if I'm listening correctly and if I'm paying attention and if I'm actually present in the space, that will bring something out of me. And you'll often find, if you watch some of the best actors, if you watch people like Stephen Graham, for example, I think he's phenomenal. Stephen Graham is an incredible listener. You can see it in his work. He's so present in what he's doing, and he's allowing himself to be affected by the other performer and by what he's hearing and what he's seeing and what's going on. And again, it comes back to self-trust, which is ironically one of the pillars of protocol. But that idea holds a lot of water, and it's definitely something that I've learnt over the past 20 years. I mean, leaving drama school, I was very green, and you know, you kind of in your own head, and you're very focused on what you're doing and your performance and how you're saying the lines and how you look and how you stand and all of that stuff. And actually, it's all bollocks. And really, it's just about the work, and it's just about exactly when you're coaching, it's about the space between two people. That's where the important stuff is happening. And once we're out of our own heads and in the room and actually communicating, that's where the magic happens, I think.
Having spent all of that time in that one principle, like honing your craft as an actor, all of those years, going from these are big TV shows, right? You've been in Emmerdale, Hollyoaks, lots of time in theatre. What other TV programs were you part of? Because they're institutions, they're huge, right?
Yeah, I did Trial and Retribution for Linda LaPlante. I've done Casualty, I've done Holby, I've done Doctors, I've done the trio of medical dramas. I did one where I was playing a Roman leader. I had to ride horses and draw swords and all the stuff that is like the reason that you become an actor. Like they give you a horse and a sword and go on then. Like, all right.
That's great.
Sound.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that's what I mean when I said at the top of the show. It's been so rich an experience. I'm incredibly lucky, and I have friends who work in corporate roles. Some are civil servants, and their job is just very, very specific, and there are clear parameters there, and they don't get to be creative, and they don't get nourished from the work. It's very important, and they're very good at it, but they don't get any kind of nourishment or growth from it. And being in a creative industry is I'll be honest, there was never a moment that I decided to be an actor. My mum very cleverly sent me to the theatre for the 3 weeks of the summer holidays because she had two small boys and we had a lot of energy and it was a lot. So she said, you know, there's a summer school at the local theatre. Would you like to go? And I said, yeah, I'll go along. And I just loved it. And I started doing musicals every year, and then I joined multiple theatre groups and I started doing plays alongside them. And I kind of got into this cycle of I was constantly rehearsing plays and musicals and putting them on. I'd be rehearsing one in the afternoon and then putting another one on in the evening, and it just became my life. And I never actually made it, just felt like a natural fit, a progression. But it was, you know, of course I'm going to go to drama school, and of course I'm going to be an actor. That there was never a decision. And I was so lucky. My parents were amazing and could see how much I was getting out of it, and I think could see that I was good at it as well. And there's something in that. I don't think children are told often enough that they're good at something. And if you tell a child that they're good at something, that can really, it sounds so simple, but it can really push a child into focusing on something, that positive reinforcement. And I got that. And then, you know, there were times when I had a wobble. I randomly, I thought of this the other day, actually, the other week. I think I manifested for the first time when I was like 15 and didn't really realize what I'd done. Seriously. So I was studying for my GCSEs, or attempting to, and I just had no focus for, you know, the reasons that you just mentioned, you know, geography, science. I don't give a shit about geography. I don't care. And I got this, but I knew that I knew that if I needed my GCSEs to go and do my A-levels, and I knew I needed my A-levels or some sort of form of acting qualification training, whatever, I want to further that to get into drama school. So I got a piece of paper out and I wrote GCSEs and an arrow, A-levels, arrow, drama school, arrow, professional actor. And I pinned it on my wall while I was studying for my GCSEs, and I kept looking at it and I was like, no, we need to focus, because this is, you know, we're going to be an actor. This is what we're going to do. And, you know, whether it had any effect or not, I did those things. I did the GCSEs and the A-levels, and then I went to drama school, which was a hell of a thing. as I'm sure you can imagine, 19 young actors in Cardiff for the first time. It was crazy times.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of, managed to get an agent before I graduated. Someone came and saw me in a play, signed me up, and I moved to London and just started working, and then landed Hollyoaks, and the rest is history, really. I've been incredibly fortunate along the way, to right place, right time. There's so much luck involved in being an actor.
A lot of creative people who get to the level that you have reached say the same. They're like chance moments, meeting the right person, being in the right room at the right time. But also, I think that manifestation piece is really important not to step over, because we need a goal, we need a dream. If we're
Direction.
Direction. Protocol, which is looking over the brow of the hill. What's over the top of that hill there? I don't know. If I work hard enough, I'll get there. So that being squashed and being told, which I think schools tend to a lot, not quite up to scratch, you're not quite good enough. What's over the brow of the hill? We need a goal. Of course we do. And luck. We make our own luck as well. We don't just sit on the sofa and Hollyoaks goes tapping on the door. You put yourself out there. You got an agent. You were doing what you needed to do. Hustling, man. You're a hustler.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have a goal, but I must stress that the goal doesn't have to be quite that defined. Just a direction, just to know that you're heading in the right direction, because things change and you might pivot at some point or whatever. But to have some purpose and some rough goal, I know is so important. And there's so many people out there right now who are lost and directionless and unfulfilled, and have all of these issues. Look, this is a difficult world that we're in at the moment for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there who, are working 50, 60-hour weeks. They've got children, they've got childcare issues, they've got they might only have an hour a day to spare, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day to spare on themselves, on their future, and on their desires and their wants and their needs. And I think, having something to focus on, just an idea, just a kernel of an idea, that I enjoy doing this thing gives me some fulfillment. Head in that direction. Just head in that direction. Put something into that and see where that leads you, because that's ultimately what I think I've done. The acting was a bit more specific, but certainly since deciding to leave Hollyoaks and deciding to semi-retire as an actor, I'm making this up as I go along. But I trust myself and I feel really fulfilled. So I know that I'm on the right path. It feels right. I feel nourished by it. So whatever happens in the future, I'm cool with. That's fine. I feel very blessed and very privileged to be in this position.
Yeah. Great, man. So was there a moment where you started asking yourself deeper questions about life beyond acting and that industry?
Oh my God. Yeah. Probably 2 years ago that I was done. Certainly done on Hollyoaks. In a wider sense, done as an actor, because it's not a favourable industry right now. Most of the actors I know are out of work and they're stressed and they're anxious, they're worried and they're in financial difficulty, some of them, and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't want to put myself in that position. I can't do that. I can't put myself in that position. As much as I love acting, you have to balance, I think, sometimes your ambition with your quality of life. You just have to. It's just an adult decision. So I knew that I'd made that decision. So I did spend 12 months really thinking really hard. I mean, it consumed me, if I'm being honest, about what was going to be next. What can I do? My transferable skill set is really niche, Jay. It's very specific. I can't go and get a normal job because I've got a 20-year gap on my CV. Any employer's going to go, where the fuck have you been? So, I knew that I had to do something, and I kind of struck on the idea that I think I might be, and I hate the word brand, because I'm not a brand, but in some sense, I suppose I am. But it was whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to run it through the lens of my experience. So I am going to be the focal point of whatever I do, and then it just became a natural thing that I'd always been interested in writing. I'd always done a lot of creative writing. I'd written plays, and I'd written dramas, and I'd written little bits and pieces, and I just started writing, and it felt like a really good fit, because of the journey that I've been on personally over the past 15 years, really, in getting off drugs and getting off drink and becoming a better person and having routine and structure and non-negotiable things around me that have been so beneficial to me. I was like, well, I'm just going to write about what I know. I'm going to write about, my journey and things that I've learned and things that I've discovered that I think are valuable to other people. Because one of the beautiful things about making changes in your life and having some self-development is that you eventually come to a place, and you know this yourself, you come to a place where you want to be of service. You want to help others. It's a natural, kind of byproduct. I think it's why I think it's the 9th step in the 10-step Alcoholics Anonymous program is you have to be a sponsor to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's that. So that all slotted together really well. And I was like, okay, so I've got the writing. So let's just follow that thread for as far as we can. And that led to the website and the development of the life audit and the long form content and the newsletter and all of that stuff. So it, as I say, I feel very fulfilled. But there was a time when I was obsessing about what I was going to do with the rest of my life.
Yeah. How challenging is it for men to step away from an identity that they've held for years? That's the question that comes up for me, because this is a men's podcast and we're speaking to men, and certainly identity. So much of our identity is caught up in the work that we do. And I spent 17 years in the building industry. I went to university and did product design, and then I went to London to do design, and then I ended up going in, setting up a flooring company. It's just like a series of responding to what was in front of me. I needed to provide for my family, and the most lucrative thing was building. So I went and did that, and I couldn't get out of it. I was trapped in it. I'm not saying that you were trapped in acting, but there's a very similar thing where you're nodding, yeah. But we do, right? It's like we know what we need to do to provide, to bring money in, to put food in the table, to pay the mortgage, all of that stuff. And I felt trapped. And my whole identity was caught up in, I'm now a builder. I'm stuck. I've got
Huge
bills
amount
to
of pressure.
pay. And I hated it. Especially for the last 5 years, I was I would sit at the end of the bed crying in the winter. I've got to go out in that fucking rain and snow and get my hands wet and cold, and I'm going to get electrocuted by power tools because they're going to be sat in puddles, and I've got to deal with customers, rich, wealthy people who want this job done now, and the kitchen company's banging on my thing going, get this done this week. No time for a cold, no time for any kind of depression or feeling down. It's just relentless pushing. And to step away from that, I had to do a lot of work on my working class roots. My granddad was a miner, a coal-faced miner. My dad worked as an engineer in factories all his life. And all of a sudden, Jamie comes along, the black sheep of the family.
I didn't want to say it. Crushing disappointment.
Crushing disappointment. Went to university and college, 6 years, extra training after school. That's already, no one's ever done that in my family. Still, to this day, I'm still the only one. I broke all the rules. And then all of a sudden, I'm not a designer. I've torn up all of that stuff and become a builder to provide for my family. And I hated it. And it took me a long time to get out of it.
What steps did you have to do to change that identity? Because it's not as easy as just making a decision and going, I'm not going to be Jamie the builder anymore. I'm just going to, because you can't just change your identity overnight. People think that you can, and people think that I'm just going to wake up and I'm going to be this vision of myself that I dream of. I'm going to be fitter or healthier or wealthier. I'm going to be more motivated. I'm going to have a different career. Whatever it is, people will try and change their lives, I think, in the wrong order, and they focus on identity. And actually, I would argue that there's more personal changes that need to happen first in terms of structure around yourself. That's something that I know I've had to change. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I was still adhering to the same routine and structure that I had 5 years ago. Couldn't. You have to adapt first, and then the identity is a byproduct. So what happened to you? So how did you navigate that?
Great question. It's a great framing as well. And I really love what you're saying there about that. Fundamentally, I had to really look at myself and do the work on myself, which is why partly I've ended up doing this work as a coach, helping men in midlife, because I had to stare at myself in the mirror and go, we got to sort this shit out. Nothing's going to change if you don't change anything. So I had to do the work. I went on a year-long leadership program with the company that I ended up doing my coach training with. That really shook things up.
Wow.
I remember coming back from week one, after week one of the 4 retreats, 7 days each. I remember coming home after the first one and put the key in the door, and Joe, my ex-wife, opened the door, and I just fell into the house on my hands and knees crying, saying, I don't know who I fucking am anymore.
Wow.
And she was like,
Oh, you're home then?
Do you want a cup of tea?
I've got a list of jobs for you.
Yeah, I think I might need something stronger than a cup of tea. But it really, and then over that 1 year, Retreat 2 was even deeper. Retreat 3 was like, wow. Retreat 4 was like, I can take on the fucking world. This is who I am.
Absolutely.
This is what I'm here to do. Okay, I get it now. I've got goosebumps even just remembering it. But if I hadn't have gone and done that, I don't know. I needed a seismic shift. I needed to look at myself in the mirror and go, right, enough.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then I had to go back to building, ironically, because that was my bread and butter. I didn't fully then be trained to become a coach until some years later, but it did shift things massively. And it became a thorn in my foot for a very long time. Like this calling kept saying, hello, I thought you were going to come over here and do this thing. Why are you driving? Why have you just bought another van? Why are you taking on more men? So the universe kept kicking my ass. I nearly took the end of my thumb off. I got literally with an angle grinder. The universe kept giving me signs like, enough, man. Come and do this coaching because this is what you're here to do. But actually what I realized now is I needed to have that extra life experience of struggle, identity shift, purpose kept calling me. I had to keep scraping my chin on the floor time and time and time again because it's given me the tools, the awareness, the stuff that I now work with men to help them with. Because if I hadn't have done that work, like,
we couldn't be doing what we're doing had we not had the experiences and the challenges that we'd been through. And it's so important. The time that you spent in the pissing rain cutting off various body parts with angle grinders was so important. So important. Is the foundation of who you are today. And had I not to put too fine a point on it, but had I not been quite so undervalued over the past 12, 18 months on Hollyoaks as I was, and I was undervalued, had that not happened, I wouldn't have been able to find my value inside myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have realized that I'd outsourced my value to a company, to a production. And that's not how that works, because you tie so much of your identity up in your self-worth and your value, your intrinsic value. And then you realize actually you're just a cog in the machine. You are replaceable. A job is just a transaction. You're exchanging your time and your services for money, and beyond that there isn't anything. So my experience is actually really similar to yours. I had so many moments over the past 18 months where I was like, yeah, that's a sign. And 5 years ago I would have taken it really personally, some of the decisions that were made around me as a performer on that show. In a way, it was a real positive. It became a real positive. I was like, no, this is absolutely, I'm fine with this because I've got this. I know what I'm doing now. I'm doing this work on myself. I've done this work. I've got this structure. I've got this new direction. And without that, I wouldn't have had it. And the same for you. Those realizations, those moments of, I shouldn't be here. This isn't for me. So powerful, mate. So powerful.
Yeah. And it takes time. It takes time to take the leap. So many men don't. They stay in those roles, and those victim saboteurs just have their own way with you every single day. And they did with me. My 10 saboteurs were on my back all day. I'd make a mistake cutting a piece of wood floor and I'd just fucking throw it across the room. What am I doing here? Hey, how's the conversation going, man? Are you enjoying the podcast? It's a good one, isn't it? I just want to pause for a moment. I won't keep you too long. If this is hitting a nerve, then that is probably because it's not new. It's probably because something in you knows something is wanting to change, and that moment could be right now as you're watching this. You see, most men don't need more information. They just need a moment to stop and know that this is the moment. This is the moment that change happens. You can feel it in your belly, right? It's like a little mini calling that goes, okay, this is it. Now we got to do something. Enough of standing still, flick off the autopilot and step into this next bit. So I've created something really simple for you in the show notes. It's all in there. And after this amazing conversation that you're listening to in this podcast, I invite you to go in there. Take that next step. If you feel it in your body, go in there after this podcast and check it all out. It's all there for you, man. Enjoy the rest of the conversation. This is an amazing podcast, right? Enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah. Why am I still doing this?
It's historic as well. Don't forget, our fathers were raised post-Second World War by our grandfathers who'd lived through a war, and it was a very, very different time. So we as young men were taught from our fathers, or inherited from our fathers, a work ethic and a stoicism and a belief that the man's role is this. This is what a man looks like. this is a man who is a provider, who shuts the fuck up, who goes to the pub after work, who these are his responsibilities. This is what a man looks like, and we've realised, or we are realising, that it's bullshit, and it doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in with this society that we currently live in, and that's, there's a lot of men out there with developed serious mental health problems. There's a lot of male suicides through the roof, and I think a lot of the cause of that is that men are struggling to live up to this idea of what masculinity and what a man looks like. And I think we need to redefine that. I think we need to look at what masculinity looks like before we can start addressing that problem, because it's all very well and good. You and I think we're probably in the top 1% of men who've managed to make that switch and make those changes and do that work and forge this new avenue for us in this new direction and this new career. But that's not available to a lot of men. It's just not. They haven't got the time, they haven't got the space, and they're trying to live up to this warped idea of this old-fashioned idea of what masculinity looks like. And I think it's a lot more complicated. And you must see these men all the time. You must speak to these guys all the time that are frustrated and unfulfilled and trapped and just stuck in a rut. And they're capable of so much more, but they've spent 30, 40, 50 years being told that, no, this is what you do, this is what your life looks like, this is going to be your sole purpose until you're 65 and you retire, and hopefully you've got a big enough pension to support you for 15, 20 years, and then you die, and that's it. And that's not an ambition that I think we should be looking at. I really don't.
Yeah, said. We're in this transition period, like we're spearing the first generation of men who are stepping away from that patriarchy kind of working class, got a graft. Like I said, my granddad was a coal-faced miner, up to his chest in black water, pickaxe, like proper. And it gets handed down through generations, through our lineage. Our ancestry, yours and mine, will be incredibly different to what we've got available to us now. My dad had two choices when he left school. You can either be a miner or an engineer. You choose. Which one do you want? That's it. There's no go to university or college or train to be a whatever. That's it. Two options. Now, young men have got so many options, like paralysis. There's way too much possibility.
They've got choice, which is a privilege, but they've also, on the flip side of that, they haven't got the stability that was afforded to our parents, or certainly to our parents, and to a lesser extent us as well. They haven't got a wage. First of all, there's no industry out there anymore for the most part. I mean, you can still learn a trade, of course, but the industries don't exist anymore. That's out of the window. The minimum wage doesn't support any kind of growth. No one has enough money to put away for a rainy day, or to save up for something, or to launch a side business, or to work on themselves. Very complicated thing. We have, as you rightly referenced there, we have, this generation of young men who are far more switched on than we ever were, far more aware of choice and optionality, but equally all the frameworks that were there to support them aren't there anymore. So they're in this really strange place where they've basically got to do it themselves. University's unaffordable, housing crisis, they can't get on the property ladder. So there's a huge amount of pressure on young people. I don't envy them at all. And I think, we've got some of the smartest, funniest, most brilliant young people coming through. We as a society need to nurture that and support that and encourage people to really grow and develop and fund our economy ultimately.
Yeah, and we have no rite of passage, remember?
No.
As men. We have no initiation from being a 15-year-old to being a 18, 19-year-old. The only rite of passage is to go to Ayia Napa or Ibiza and get off your bollocks for a weekend, and then you're a man. That's not
the good old days.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
Great days.
But that is not an initiation. It's the same with women. Young girls don't have that. Yeah. That crossover is not there. It's in tribes still across the world. When one day you're an adolescent, the next day you're a man. That's it. Now you're part of the man tribe. That's why these, like Andy's Man Club and these talking circles that are becoming more and more popular now for men of all ages. We're not talking to each other face to face. Can't make eye contact with a young man. You go in a coffee shop. I talk to everybody. You probably do as well. You're outgoing like me. And I start talking to a young guy in a coffee shop. They just can't talk to me. Can't make
more connected than they've ever been, but lonelier than ever. It's so ironic and so.
Me too, by the way. Hands up. Lonely, isolated. This thing, I don't get out as much as I used to because I've got this. I can just, I've got about 25 different WhatsApp groups and Instagram. I'm communicating with people all the time. If I spent less time on that, more time going down at local paddle club or a tennis club, which I'm going to try and do because that's getting me out of the house and actually talking to people and interacting and laughing and crying and joking, which is why I brought Andy's Man Club to Stroud, because it's like, let's sit in circle like we've been doing for thousands of years. Men have been sitting around fires since we were fucking cavemen. It's not quite the same in a church hall, but connecting. It's fundamentally, we need community. We need to connect. We need touch and tactileness. And
you can be that man. You can be the man that starts that, because I tell you what, it's not just you. I think sometimes when we're feeling like that, when we're feeling lonely, when we're feeling isolated, we feel like we're the only ones that are feeling like that. But I'll tell you now, I mean, you know as well as me, so many men out there feel the same way. So you can be that guy. You can be the one to start that community and get these guys out of the house. And what can we do? What have we got in common? What does everyone like? What do you want to set up? Let's set that up. Let's do that. And be the guy, be the leader, be the beacon of change. That could be your responsibility. I think you've from speaking to you, I think you've certainly dipped your toe in the water with that. But I think throw yourself into that. Be that person. Find these men and bring them all together and get them out from behind their phone screens and find out what you've got in common and set some things up. That's your direction.
It's my mission.
It's your mission, man. It absolutely is affecting actual change. Actionable change rather than just ideas and thoughts. Make it happen. Start in Stroud and then see where it goes.
Protocol.
Yeah.
I'm conscious that I'd really love to talk about protocol in the time that we've got, because this is the work that you're transitioning from acting and theatre and that industry. So let's talk about protocol. What is it?
At its core, it's like an adult reset system, all based on lived experiences. It's all things that I've developed and learnt that I want to share with people. I am proof that what I'm writing about works, because I am doing really, really well. I've never had a sustained period like I have done over the last 6 months, where I wake up every single day and I feel excited about the day ahead and I feel grateful and I can't wait to get started. I know I've had moments, we've all experienced moments of that, but to have a sustained period of that, it throws up a lot of questions, because you're like, right, well, what am I doing right? How is this kind of happening? And as I said earlier in the show, I started writing about some of these things and kind of getting some core sort of principles down. What the main one, my main focus, what I really love talking about is self-trust. That's become a real pillar of my work on protocol, is becoming someone that you can trust, becoming reliable to yourself. I think a lot of us humans, we constantly break little promises to ourselves every single day. We tell ourselves that we're going to go to the gym and we don't. We say we're going to order a salad instead of the chips and we don't. We say we're going to start the business or the side hustle or learn the language or whatever it is. And we break these little promises and we tell ourselves that we're just putting it off and we'll do it tomorrow or we'll do it next week or whatever. And we don't think it's that important. I am living proof that shit matters and it compounds. And the more little promises you break to yourself, the harder it is when it comes to the big decisions, because you just don't trust yourself. You don't have any reliability. So that's kind of one of the core sort of aspects of protocol, is trying to encourage people to be accountable for themselves and just to start really, really small with tiny little promises. For me, when I was using a lot of drugs and drinking and having late nights and stuff, getting up in the morning was just a nightmare. Every day would start with, I'm running late and I'm on social media and I'm stressed and I'm anxious and, all of that kind of stuff. I didn't have any sort of structure in place. For me, it was just standing up, I just stood up. I made a conscious decision, right, tomorrow when my alarm goes off, I'm going to set my alarm early and I'm just going to stand up. I keep that one promise to myself, just stand up. So I stood up and I felt really awkward and I felt really uncomfortable. And I was like, right, now what do I do? Well, I'm up now, so I might as well try and keep another promise to myself. This is Jordan Peterson talks about trying to help people change their lives and through his therapy. And he talks about, this guy who's got this really messy bedroom, and he's like, right, make a promise to yourself that on day one, you're just going to get the Hoover out of the cupboard. You're not going to do anything with the Hoover. You're just going to get the Hoover out of the cupboard. And then the next day, you're going to turn the Hoover on. You're not going to Hoover, but you're just going to turn it on. And it's kind of similar to that in a sense, but it's sustaining that, because one of the things that I've learned is that we can't rely on motivation. especially men, but women as well. We can listen to inspirational podcasts. We can shout affirmations in the mirror. We can do all of these things, sign up for a new PT, get a gym membership, all of this stuff, but it all requires motivation. And this is why I don't think a lot of the self-help stuff worked for me, because motivation is transient. It is affected with mood and with sleep and with hormones and all of it, and stress and, work commitments, all kinds of stuff is the reason why people don't stick to things. So part of protocol is kind of removing motivation from it and just keeping tiny little promises to yourself that barely need any thought. Right, I'm not going to go on my phone for the first hour of the day. That I'm going to keep that promise to myself. I'm just not going to go on doom scroll, wake up and be bombarded with other people's problems and loud noises. And I'm not going to do that, right? It's a small promise I can keep.
Yeah.
And these things compound and they don't really require much motivation. So protocol's kind of it's almost post self-help, really. A lot of the language I use is quite masculine. Anyway, I'm trying to push against that because I want it to appeal to women as well. I don't want it to be just for men. But naturally, a lot of the language around systems and around structure and direction does feel very masculine. So I am trying to push against that. But I think I've hit upon something quite important, and I feel incredibly fulfilled with what I'm doing. And as I said at the top of this section, I am living proof that this works. I am someone that I can trust. That is an incredibly powerful thing to know, that whatever happens, whatever choices I make, whatever difficulties I'm thrown with, right, I don't need to panic. I don't need to freak out. I don't need to burn my entire life down, because I know I can handle it, because I've got a body of evidence that I've built up over the last 18 months that says I can trust myself to deal with anything. It's powerful stuff, man. And the feedback I've been getting been fantastic from people, really relating, really resonating with my work, with my newsletter and my essays and stuff. I put a new life audit system on there that people can take based on, I've read so many psychology studies and various things, from CBD all the way through to all kinds of stuff, to try and develop something, 25 questions, and people can get a prescription, people can get a diagnosis of what they should focus on first, be that career, be that relationships, friendships, health and fitness, whatever it is. They get a diagnosis and they get a prescription. This is what you should focus on first. And that's been really, really valuable. It's great. I'm really, really excited, and I'm taking it on the road as well this year. I've just written my first keynote speech, which I'm super excited about, which is about visibility. It's a much more corporate facing talk, but again, it's all based on lived experience. My rented visibility at Hollyoaks can be taken away at any time, and in this economic climate, it's ultimately about future proofing your career. These are difficult times, and your job and your career and your industry could be taken away from you at any moment. AI is already doing that to a lot of people. So this is about not being a content creator as such, but making yourself visible, leaving proof everywhere that you are trusted in your field, talking about what you do every day in a business sense, or in whatever it is. If you're a plumber, put content out, put videos out, write about it, explain to people what you know, share what you know through the lens of your own experience. That's what makes it unique. So that's what the first keynote is about. And then the other one I'm developing is, you'll be shocked to hear, all about self-trust.
Why am I shocked to hear that?
Yeah, well, there you go.
What habits and routines have become non-negotiables for you? And that's the first part of my question. What advice would you give to any man listening to this off the back of what are non-negotiable routines and habits for you?
Yeah, cool. I'm very privileged, first of all. I have to say that before, as some context. I'm very privileged in the sense that I don't have children and that I live alone. So I do have more time available to myself to put structures in place. But again, my counter argument to that would be, even if you've only got half an hour a day that you could find, you can have some sort of routine within that half hour that you stick to, even if it's really, really small. I started with a morning routine. So I curate my entire morning is non-negotiable now, unless I've got, today I had to go to Manchester and do a radio interview, but ordinarily it's perfectly curated, and one thing leads to another, so I don't even really have to think about it. But as a byproduct of that, I've now got a nighttime routine which also filters into the morning routine. My nighttime routine is, I'm in bed asleep by 9 o'clock. I've done some reading. I've got my gym gear ready for the next morning. I've got my electrolytes and my water by my bed for the morning. I've already planned out what I'm going to do down to the sort of, not minute, but I have a real sense of what I'm doing the next day. Nothing's going to shock me. Oh shit, I've forgotten to do that. And there's none of that. And I've done my gratitude journal as well. So I've actually covered my day and put it in print. So my thoughts are out on paper. I get up and I immediately hydrate, because it's so important. You're dehydrated. You can't have a functioning brain without a functioning body, so you need to hydrate immediately. I sit quietly for 20 minutes. It's not meditation. It's more just to gather my thoughts and think about what I'm doing that day, and to make sure that I know that's going to lead to that. And then I'm going there and I'm seeing that person. I've got to write that. I just gather my thoughts. No phone for the first hour. No social media, no phone. The first time I go on my phone is in the gym, and then I'm home, I'm showered, and it's time for breakfast. I go for a 20-minute walk, sometimes with a podcast, sometimes just take in some nature and some sounds and breathe, do some breath work. And then the first output of my day is creative. I do my writing in the morning. I get that's when I'm at my most creative, is between 10 o'clock in the morning and so my first output is creative, which is really, really, really helpful, I think. And then the afternoons is admin and maybe a bit more writing, whatever, but it's non-negotiable. And that structure that I have underneath me allows me the strength, I think, the strength and the courage to achieve things and to back myself, because I have this routine that I adhere to. It's super important. So to anyone listening, I would say, if you want to have a productive day, you need to have a productive morning. And I know that's difficult if you've got children and you work long hours. I understand that. But, rather than sitting at home in the evening, when you get home and you've had your tea and you've put the kids to bed or whatever, rather than sitting and just watching TV for a couple of hours before you go to bed an hour early. Nothing interesting happens after 9 o'clock, I promise you. Go to bed an hour early, get up an hour early, and just have some semblance of a routine that's just all about you, that just focuses on what you need mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, whatever my routine is for me. Feel free to copy it, but I don't think it's the content that's important. I think it's the structure, the fact that hydration leads to movement, and movement leads to stillness, and stillness leads to creativity. Just feels like a clear through line for me. So if you can find something like that, that would be a wonderful place to start. Just giving yourself that time in the morning, that clarity of thought. And then that you might use some of that time to think about where you are in your life, and to think, well, yeah, I am frustrated and I am unfulfilled and, I am unhappy, and I want to leave the building trade and go into coaching or whatever it is. But you need to gather your thoughts. You need some stillness. You were lucky enough, you went on a retreat. Amazing, but it's not available to everybody. But so the argument there is just find that little bit of space and that little bit of time for you, and listen to what you need. Sit on the end of the bed and ask yourself those questions. Where am I going wrong? What's going on? Where am I leaking energy? Where could I be improving? What am I missing? I'm here and I want to get somewhere over there. So, what does that look like? Well, it starts with keeping promises to yourself, I think.
Wow. Great answer. And what comes up for me around that is, one of the important things you said was, this is my routine and this doesn't work for everyone. Take from it what you will. But there's something about starting small for me that came out of that. It's just start with something. I have this metaphor that I share with my clients sometimes. It's, what's the milk you keep putting in your margarita? So imagine your life is this beautiful cocktail. What's the thing that you keep pouring in it to fuck it up so you can't drink it? For a lot of people, it's drinking alcohol or smoking weed or taking drugs or some kind of chemical addiction that has us escape. So what is the milk that you keep pouring in your margarita? Whatever it is, or all of them. So that's the first thing, because again, nothing changes if nothing changes. Discipline takes work. And a lot of people say to me, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say. It's not easy for me at all. It's fucking hard work, the stuff that I do. And that what you've just explained there is hard work. That takes effort. It takes discipline. It takes routine. It takes putting your pint. And I've been doing that, by the way, since I heard you talk about it. Pint glass at the side of the thing, electrolytes in it. It's ready. So when I wake up, I've got no excuse. If I don't want to sit and look at my phone when I get into bed, I put a book on my pillow to remind me before I get into bed, leave the phone, read a bit of this book.
100%. This is it. Discipline is hard. The pushback on that is, so start small, spread it out. You're not going to blow your whole life up overnight. You are not going to go from someone who has no discipline, doesn't keep any promises to themselves, has no self-trust. You're not going to suddenly draw a line in the sand and wake up the next day and become that person. It's just not going to happen. It's not sustainable. You're not going to stick to it, even with the best intentions. So just build up those little promises over time. Keep the water by the bed, read the book, keep the phone away, have the stillness, do the exercise, go to the gym once, even if you just go for half an hour, just to go and experience that. Keeping those little promises, they compound. And then before you know it, you've built this whole new you through these tiny little promises.
I think what happens a lot of time is people, men especially, because we're talking about men here, men try and do all of that in a week.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
They try and stop using their phone every day in a week, go to bed early, don't drink, do all of these things, and it just becomes overwhelming, right? So what you're saying is tiny little increments, like the Atomic Habits book. Great book.
But that's exactly it, mate. Just to add to that, it's not social media anymore. It's marketing media. Everybody's selling a course or a product or something. It's not that, those halcyon days where you would just snap a selfie of you and your mate in the pub and that would be enough for Instagram. The algorithm doesn't work like that. It doesn't show that content to anyone. So unless you're using social media for business, there's really little point in going on it, I would argue.
Yeah. Just stay away from it. Just do your thing.
It's hard though, mate. It is hard, like we were saying, making all these changes at once. It's like the reason that people fail is that it's like you've had the color turned down on your life because you're used to so much dopamine. We get all these little dopamine hits. Every time you pick up your phone, you're getting a little dopamine hit. Every time you're having a drink or even thinking about having it, you get little dopamine hits. If you suddenly turn the tap off and there's no dopamine, it's like it's like someone's turned the light switch off. And it takes a long time for your eyes to adjust to the dark. And that's the period where people go, fuck this. I'm just going to put a lamp on and just have a spliff. That's the metaphor there that I think works. It's just dim the light slowly.
By bit. Exactly. You don't. Yeah, exactly. I stopped drinking for a couple of years ago. And the first 3 weeks were horrific. Because every morning I woke up and there it is. There's my problems right in my face. I couldn't do anything with it. And they stayed there all day. And gradually it just got lighter and a bit more opaque. And then another day it would come here, but I could deal with it. I was like, I can see you there. It's all right. Stop. Don't push me too far. I can see you. And then eventually I didn't drink. It just became a thing. It's like saying I don't eat meat anymore. It's a practice. It's discipline. It's saying I'm not doing that. I'm not pouring that milk in my margarita anymore. Yeah, my therapist gave me a ultimatum. She said, if you carry on drinking, where are you going to be 6 months from now? I said, probably in a flat above a Ladbrokes with a bottle of whiskey. She went, yeah. Do you want to carry on? No. So I stopped.
Clever woman. I did the same. It's the same thing to me, mate. Sat on the kitchen floor drinking a bottle of wine in the remnants of my marriage and trying to maintain a public profile on television at the same time as everything was falling apart behind the scenes. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. What I lived through was miserable, isn't it? Really.
And a rich life experience, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, the yes and to that is because I've been unfortunate enough to experience a marriage separation, and crikey, men listening to this will shiver at the thought of it, and I lost my mum a couple of years ago. Huge grief, like it's cataclysmic the level of grief and rite of passage that losing a parent is, especially a mum. A son losing his mum. It's man. But it's life experience, I have this attitude where everything is a gift and an opportunity. When I found out my mum had stage 4 cancer, the first thing I thought was, this is a gift and I need to really embrace this time. She's got 6 months. This is the gift. Like maybe 10 years ago, I'd have picked up a bottle of wine, and I saw this as an opportunity to spend time with my mum. And it was an incredible time.
Very special.
And thank God. And my mission was to help her die. That became my mission, that she would not die in hospital, that we would give her the opportunity to spend her final breaths with all of us around, holding her hand. And that's what we made happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So life's always going to throw curveballs our way, right? It's just how do we deal with them?
Yeah. Put yourself in the best possible position to deal with them. That would be the takeaway, is identify what's going wrong and try and fix it step by step, brick by brick. You can't fix everything at once. You can't. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Feels like we're coming into land. The
I
arc,
feel like we're coming
the
to-
energetic arc is delicate and tender.
Yeah, it feels like a nice place to leave it. But yeah, that's lovely. That's a lovely chat.
Yeah. James Sutton, it's been a great conversation. I feel like I'm just getting to know you, man. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
No, me too, mate. Thank you for sharing with me as well. It means a lot, that. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm going to put all your details on the show notes where we can find you, your protocol stuff, which is great, by the way. If anybody wants to go and dive into that stuff, it's really rich work. It's beautiful. It looks beautiful as well. Do you want to just say it out loud what the website is so people can't be asked to go and look at the...
Yeah, it's thejamessutton.com. It's called Protocol. It's, live deliberately. It's my tag, yeah.
That is velvet. That's velvet smooth. I love it. JamieCoach.com if you want to find me, or TikTok, or go and find James Sutton on TikTok and Instagram as well. Let's go and get a cup of tea, and we'll leave Safe Harbour for the next guest next week. Thanks again, mate. It's been a
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, man.
See you later, buddy. Take care. Bye. So that's another episode of Safe Harbour. Thank you so much for being here and listening in on this amazing conversation. And if you enjoyed today's show, give us a follow, give us a like, and share this with another man who you think might need to have this conversation. Another new guest next time. Tune in. Have a great day, man. And remember, you are amazing, right?